KCLR Live, with thanks to the Fairgreen Shopping Centre gift card, the perfect gift for all occasions. See fairgreen.ie.
Now you're tuned to KCLR Live with Emer Ní on, and we're delighted to welcome Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeill on the programme. I haven't spoken to you before, Minister. You're very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Jobs announcements, great news for Kilkenny City, and you were telling me off air even the name Kilkenny is getting for fintech now.
It's becoming a fintech hub. I mean, not only have you State Street here, but we have two very significant jobs announcements today with homegrown companies. CR Payroll announced 40 jobs today, and Loanit another 40 jobs. And the reason that this is significant is these are really a high value fintech jobs, and the fact that Kilkenny is becoming its own fintech hub, it's all reinforcing. It's developing its own sort of ecosystem for really high quality jobs that will sit here and stay here and have the opportunity to export into the UK and into the United States. So it's great to see this sort of regional development, and it's great to see, you know, these are supported by Enterprise Ireland, by government grants and the partnership, but this is an entrepreneurial spirit just taking over and expanding and doing really high value work in fintech right in Kilkenny.
Right, and we've talked to John, and he's regularly on KCLR from Loanit, and building that business really from the grassroots up. It's a difficult thing to do when you're out there and your competitors are so huge as well.
Very difficult, but you know, I was talking to them this morning and they said the support from the local enterprise office, the support from Enterprise Ireland. But look, entrepreneurs are driving, they're working really hard to try and build a business. But what they've done really cleverly now is partner with the credit union movement. And you know, we all know the credit union movement and how wonderful they are, and being able to partner with Loanit to be able to get quicker, you know, a better stream of applications in very quickly. They were telling me just yesterday, overnight, they had 500,000 worth of loan requests in through the Loanit system, just into a small number of credit unions. And I'm introducing legislation that's going to give the credit unions even more power to do loans, to do mortgage lending, to collaborate, to do more SME lending. The credit union movement in Ireland, as you know, Emer, is just one of the strongest, most trusted brands. 500 physical locations around the country. But what we're trying to do is give them the opportunity to loan even more into the mortgage market and into business, and to make it a really powerhouse community bank that is such a strong brand in Ireland, and everyone knows the credit union.
Okay, now just before you came in, I was talking to Mayor David Fitzgerald, and we were talking about maybe future plans and election. And for Fine Gael, your colleague here in Kilkenny, John Paul Phelan, recently announced he won't be seeking re-election once this term is out. Any thoughts on that, and how did you work together in government?
Oh, John Paul Phelan and I would be very close, and congratulations to him and Claire on their beautiful little baby Garrett. It's wonderful to see, and you know, it's a next stage of life for him and for his family, and that, you know, I would just wish them so well. I would be very close with John Paul Phelan. He was Director of Elections in 2019 and he found me and asked me to run as a candidate, to ask as a woman. Yeah, stopped me on the street and he said, "I've been meaning to talk to you, girl," you know the way. and he wanted me to run in Killiney Shankill, and I said to him, "No, you know, I don't think that's for me." And he was the one who identified it and pushed it, and I was elected then as a councillor because of him and his foresight. In 2019 I became a TD in 2020, and now I'm here in Kilkenny as Minister doing jobs announcement. And the reason I say that is there are so many councillors out there chomping at the bit for an opportunity to run and to take the next stage to represent their community. We have over 250 councillors across Ireland, and I'm looking to the future of Fine Gael. I'm looking to the future of the renewal of the party. And while I will greatly miss John Paul Phelan, there is an opportunity now for that group of councillors, a renewed Fine Gael, to take the next step forward. And you know, as David was saying before, everything goes through its own process of renewal, whether it's sports teams or political parties or anything else. But you know, certainly I'm an example of somebody who had the opportunity given by John Paul Phelan, and there's so many councillors like that around the country who I think are chomping at the bit for the opportunity.
I recently met the Women for Election group, and it's interesting the movement that's going on there, trying to empower and encourage women into politics. We know it's a difficult job, we know about the challenges, but are you managing to attract good female candidates now in the run up to the local elections?
I'm speaking to two women in my own constituency and talking through with them very honestly the opportunities and the challenges that political life can bring. And I think that's the best approach, to be really, really honest with people. You want to give them not just the ladder but the whole scaffolding about what it is to take the steps, the practicality of running a campaign. I mean, for goodness sake, I told John Paul Phelan no, and that no one would vote for me. You know what I mean? I think women come to it slightly differently. They like to know.
What was his pitch, by the way? I'm just fascinated when he said, "Well, girl, how are you going? Will you run?" What did he? How did he attract you into it?
Well, I mean, he was very clear that there was an opportunity for a woman in Killiney Shankill local area, and he could see that very clearly on the numbers.
Was there a predominantly men on the council there?
Well, there was, yeah, and Dunleary Rathdown is one of the few areas where we really have a 50-50 gender balance. But it was very clear that there was an opportunity for a woman there who was grounded in her area. And I mean, I was working hard in my professional life. I wasn't part of community groups. I had my kid in creche. I was part of the community in that sense. But, you know, people have a notion that you have to have been the chair of the Residents Association, that you have to, if you're involved in your community at all, if you're involved in a sports club, if you're part of life just bringing your kid to and from school, if you've been involved in any way, just the very fact of being embedded in your community, you're already doing political work. You're already part of your community. And what I'm trying to do, and what Fine Gael and others are trying to do, Women for Election as well, is talk to women in particular who might come to it, you know, thinking that you have to have ticked every box first, or that you have to have done this, that and the other first. I'm an example of how not only do you not have to do that, but you can be asked the question and not have the confidence to say yes, or not have the confidence to say I might like a second chat. It's all right to explore it. It's all right to explore the different options. And I would love to talk to women right around Ireland who are thinking at that fledgling stage of, well, will I, won't I, can I, can't I? And I'm telling them that they can.
Right. Now, you've given us like that. That is information that might empower women, but be real with us as well. What's the downside to all of this?
The downside is the sheer number of hours that you work and the availability that you have that can interfere with family life in particular. The downside is social media abuse, but I can tell women how to cope with that and how to deal with that. It takes a certain length of time until you figure out that it's only a teeny tiny number of people, and that, you know, it's not real. It's just not real in the way that when you meet people in real life, it just isn't replicated. And I think it takes a while to work that out and go, well, actually,
the agendas sometimes as well. Sometimes when there is somebody in particular who's going for you, when you dig underneath it, is there sometimes something driving them?
Absolutely. But, you know, when you think about that, one person's going for you on social media and it seems like it's the end of the world, and it seems as though the whole world can see that, but they really can't. And I have been in situations where I might be at the receiving end of that, and my colleague across the corridor from me hasn't even noticed, hasn't even seen it. It hasn't come up on his register. Or that, you know, you might think that that everybody can see this. But the truth is, if somebody was going after you, one person in the pub, everybody else in the pub would roll their eyes and they'd probably, you know, weigh in and tell them to head on with themselves. It isn't real. And I think it takes a while to learn that and to distinguish that. But on the other hand, I mean, I've set out some of the challenges and difficulties, and, you know, like I was in Portlaoise last night, you know, I was in Kilkenny or Killarney on Saturday morning. You know, there is a separation from family, and I really acknowledge that. But on the other hand, for the opportunity, however long it is, that you have to represent your community, that you have to stand up and say the things that you believe are important on behalf of the people that you represent, and indeed on behalf of all of your community, the opportunity and the privilege of that is just wonderful. And to be honest with you, you know, when you look back at your life and the different things that you did, and you ran for election, whether you'd got it or you didn't get it, to participate in a democratic process and to put yourself forward for election, I think people will always look back on that with favour and as something that was really constructive that they did.
Minister, my final guest on the programme today, who will be joining me shortly from Mockra, he is one of a number of young people that are planning a demonstration, a protest. They're bringing it to government. They're talking about young people in rural Ireland not being able to access homes, having disjointed or sparse healthcare. They've a lot of issues, especially young farmers as well, trying to avail of grant supports. There's a lack of public transport in rural Ireland. I understand you represent people in an urban area of Dublin, but beyond that M50, there's a whole cohort of us that have frustrations with the current government.
There's frustrations everywhere, but I look what I see in the last couple of days. First of all, I see 80 really high value jobs being announced in Kilkenny, where people can live within an hour of Kilkenny and come and remote work or come into the office, and these are really exceptional jobs that are grounded here. Yesterday I was in Eden Dairy, and I see in Offaly, and I see the value of the investment from the Department of Rural and Community in every corner of every town that I'm going through. Money for feasibility studies for doing up old town halls, money to develop primary care centres, to develop derelict sites. Yesterday in Eden Dairy, for example, money to, close down old swimming pools and open new swimming pools. And I know that in Kilkenny you need a better, more efficient train service, frankly, to and from Dublin, a later commuter train as well. And those are the sorts of investments, the capital investments, that we absolutely need to see happening already, as I've said, and continuing. We are in a very good financial position in Ireland at the moment, and I want to see that money invested in making high-speed rail available, in making our communities stronger and better. But the money that we have to date, we have invested that hugely in every town renewal, chlor funding, urban regeneration, rural regeneration. Every corner of every town, you can see the regeneration, and we need to continue that to make life in rural Ireland just as the best that it can be.
Minister Jennifer Carroll McNeill, thank you very much for joining us on the programme this morning. You're Minister of State for Financial Services, Insurance and Credit Unions, and in Kilkenny today, so we'll let you continue your journey through the city.
Thank you very much.
KCLR Live